On the news, reps to probe technical error in JAMB's 2025 UTME. Nigeria's inflation rate drops to 23.71% in April 2025. And Lagos government tells residents to report tenancy agreement fee higher than 10%. Many thanks for joining us on the news on TV360 Nigeria. I'm Tamilore Akinkolye. We begin with the House of Representatives, where a bill to amend the Electoral Act 2022 to make voting compulsory for Nigerians of voting age is past second reading in the House. The proposed legislation was proposed by the Speaker Tajuddin Abbas and Daniel Ago. Leading the debate during plenary on Thursday, Ago said the bill aimed to encourage citizens' participation in the electoral process, noting that voters' apathy during elections would be addressed if the bill scales legislative scrutiny. Although the bill passed second reading, a member of the People's Democratic Party (PDP) from Akwa Ibom State, Mark Essert, said enacting a law to make voting compulsory is not enough to synthesize the electoral system. And the House of Representatives is resolved to investigate the technical error that compromised the result of the 2025 Unified Tertiary Matriculation Examination (UTME). The Green Chambers passed the resolution during plenary on Thursday, following the adoption of a motion of urgent public importance, sponsored by Adewale Adebayo, a lawmaker from Osun State. Moving the motion, Adebayo said many Nigerians have suffered losses while traveling long distances to their UTME examination centers. In his contribution to the motion, Sada Soli, a lawmaker from Katsina State, urged the House to commend the JAMB registrar for admitting the technical error and apologizing to Nigerians. He said the JAMB boss has demonstrated integrity and increased the board's revenue since it was appointed into office.
That urgent improvement in the technical and logistical preparation for JAMB will avert unnecessary risk, agony, and improve overall performance in subsequent JAMB UTME examination in Nigeria.
When we look at the security situation in the country and logistics, why JAMB should come and explain why they fixed examination for 6:30. And Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, this House once passed a resolution directing relevant educational agencies that the under 16 policy, the policy that under 16 students will not be admitted into higher institution, we directed that they should suspend the policy. Sadly enough, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, JAMB has refused to release the results of all under 16.
Certain things, technical things that some key officers should do at a point where the examination is taking place that were not done. And that's where they had some individuals, some candidates had these glitches. And the system automatically identified those candidates. So it was not a manipulation or it's not anything. And the result was consistent since 2003 up to this moment, was consistent with the way UTME is being taken. The man came on national television, accepted the fault, which is not common in this country. And he apologized to Nigerians. And I think this House should commend that effort to our public officers. This is what do not happen in this country.
Meanwhile, the National Association of Nigerian Students (NANS) has held the Joint Admission and Matriculation Board (JAMB) responsible for the tragic death of Timileyin Faith Okpesusi, a candidate who reportedly took a life in Ikorodu, Lagos, after scoring 190 in the 2025 Unified Tertiary Matriculation Examination. In a strongly worded statement issued by its Vice President, Tenyodin Ongbo, NANS accused JAMB of gross negligence and called for the immediate resignation of its registrar, Asia Koloyede. The student body said the psychological trauma inflicted by JAMB's handling of the UTME result, especially in Lagos and several southeast states, has not only derailed academic dreams but has now claimed a young life. Describing the incident as a national embarrassment and institutional disgrace, NANS demanded full responsibility from JAMB, including compensation, legal and psychological support for the bereaved family. While JAMB has announced a rescheduled exam for nearly 380 affected candidates, NANS insists that the process must be conducted with utmost fairness, warning that Nigerian students will not tolerate further incompetence. Now, to help us unpack the ongoing uproar in Nigeria's education sector following the recent UTMA controversy, I am now being joined by Mr. Yomi Ogunwale, the team lead at EduPlanner. Thank you for joining us. Now, we see that JAMB admitted to systematic flaws in this year's result. Now, in your opinion, what do you think are the systematic flaws that could have led to technical error of this magnitude in an examination, in a national examination like UTMA?
Thank you for having me. Um, I think in implementing an upgrade like this that JAMB has decided to do, which is actually to address the cases of examination malpractice, which is a very, very commendable effort by JAMB to actually move from the paper form-based system to a single tier-based system. It is a very, very laudable idea. However, I think in implementing something like this, it should have gone through a lot of tests and a lot of retesting. Now, from the press release made by the registrar, the one of those things they talked about was that it was more of human error, because you see that some of the security patches that were supposed to be done for the servers in the lag areas, in the lag states, were not done. And that was what cost over 300,000 students who their results were not consistent. So these are the big issues. And one of those things I would say, because when you say technical issues, you are saying the servers are wrong. But the servers were not wrong this time around. The other servers around the country were updated. It was just the ones for the lag area, the lag states, that were not updated, which is as a result of the officers in charge who did not update the security patch for these servers. So one of those things that I think could be done is, why did this happen? These individuals, what happened? Why weren't they able to go to these servers and update them? And I think this should be done. What the registrar has done so far is to describe what happened. We still
Okay.
don't know the reason why the officers did not update these servers. This is
Uh,
something we are supposed to
Sorry,
investigate
Yomi,
and
sorry to
report
cut you
public.
short. But with what you've said so far, we see that based on what you're saying now, it's the human section that adds the issue. Now, Nance has called for the resignation of the JAM registrar and compensation for the victim's family that died. Now, are these demands reasonable, or are they too emotionally charged? And we also said that some lawmakers have praised JAM's registrar for admitting the error and increasing revenue. What is your take on these two issues?
I think the whole opera around this year's results has been too emotional for me as an education expert, in the sense that when you look at the difference between the failure rate of last year and this year, it's just 1%. So was this opera available last year? And I think for me, like, technology coming in now from JAM is going to address this examination malpractice issues, which will also address other issues. Now, coming to NANS, it does not, the whole opera around the registrar should resign, I think, is too emotional on my own part, because it's an institutional issue and they can address it as an institution. This is the first time it is happening. Unless there's a repeat, I don't think there should be any resignation from the registrar for now. And I think a very good call for them to compensate the family. Now, coming to our lawmakers, I think when you are looking at issues like this, the primary role of JAM is to organize examinations, not to generate revenue for the government. And I think since Professor Loyede came into as JAMB registrar, the revenue has shot up a bit. And that is not a fair thing on participants who keep writing this examination every year. Some have called for the fact that JAMB should be extended beyond the 1 year expiry dates to 2 years. And I still think also that government should be subsidizing examinations like this. And JAMB should not be costing more than 3,500 naira for participants, even at this stage. So these are some of the issues. And the lawmakers are actually very, very wrong this time around to say that JAMB has been making revenue. It shows misplaced priority on the part of the government.
Mr. Yomi Ogunwale, team lead at EduPlanner, thank you once again for your insight, and we hope that this matter is resolved with fairness and transparency. Now, still on NANS, the association has called for the immediate intervention of the Minister of Education, Tuji Alausa, in resolving the escalating crisis at the Federal University Oyo Ekiti Foye, Ekiti State. The student body made the demand on Thursday during a protest at the Ministry of Education headquarters in Abuja, citing allegations of impunity, abuse of power, and systematic injustice within the institution. NANS Public Relations Officer Adeyemi Samson accused Foye's Vice Chancellor, Abayomi Fashion, of shielding Dr. Anthony Agbegbedeya of the Department of Peace and Conflict Studies, who is allegedly involved in sex for grade scandals. According to NANS, rather than being sanctioned, the professor is reportedly receiving protection from the university's leadership. The student urged the minister to take swift action to ensure accountability and restore integrity to the university system.
We are gathered not out of rebellion, but of a collective and moral urgency to defend the rights, dignity, and future of Nigerian students who have become victims of a toxic academic environment engineered by impunity, abuse of power, and systemic injustice. As national representative of all Nigerian students, we can no longer remain silent today. We raise our voice not just for ourselves, but every student who have suffered silently, every staff unjustly victimized, and every life then endangered under the current administration of Foye. At the heart of this process lies the disturbing and well-documented case of Dr. Agbegbedeya, a staff of the Department of Peace and Conflict Studies, whose action represent everything wrong with unchecked academic power. Dr. Agbegbedeya sexually harassed a female student and deliberately failed her after she refused to submit to his immoral demands. When the matter was brought to light, her script was re-evaluated by an external panel, and she passed honorably. Rather than discipline the predator, the Vice Chancellor, Professor Abayomi Sunday Fashion, protected and even rewarded him with a promotion. This is not just an abuse of power, it is a betrayal of trust and a violation of the moral sanctity of education.
And Nigeria's headline inflation rate is slightly to 23.71% in April 2025, down from 24.23% recorded in March, according to the latest data released by the National Bureau of Statistics on Thursday. Now, this marks a 0.52 percentage point decline and reflects a modest reprieve in the country's inflation trajectory. On a month-to-month basis, the April 2025 headline inflation stood at 1.86%, representing a sharp decline from 3.90% in March. The Bureau also reported a significant drop in food inflation, which was 21.36% year-on-year, which is now down 19.27% from 14.53% in April. However, disparities remain across states as Benue, Ekiti, and Kebbi recorded the highest year-on-year food inflation, while Ebonyi, Adamawa, and Ogun State experienced the slowest rise. And three opposition members of the House of Representatives on Thursday officially announced their defection to the ruling All Progressives Congress APC during plenary. The lawmakers include Oluwole Oke from Osun State, who left the People's Democratic Party PDP, and Kabiru Azan and Sani Abdullahi, both from Kano State, who defected from the New Nigeria People's Party NNPP to APC. Their defections were formally announced by Speaker Abbas Tajideen at the plenary, increasing the total number of of lawmakers who have switched parties since the inauguration of the 10th Assembly to 30. Of the 30 defectors, 27 have joined the APC from the PDP, Labour Party, African Democratic Congress ADC, and the NNPP. In a separate resolution, the House has directed the Federal Ministry of Health, the NCDC and MPHCDA to enforce mandatory diphtheria immunization testing and treatment in all 774 local government areas. Honorable Beatrice Lowry, who moved the motion, raised the alarm over the continued spread of diphtheria in Nigeria due to low vaccination coverage. The House also tasked the Ministry of Information and National Orientation with ramping up public awareness campaigns to curb transmission.
Alarmed that from May 2022 to February 2025, Nigeria has reported 41,978 suspected cases of diphtheria from Bauchi, Borno, Jigawa, Kaduna, Katsina, with Kano and Yobe states accounting for the highest number, 24,062 and 5,330 respectively. Most cases were within the ages of 1 to 14, and only 19.7% were fully vaccinated, resulting in 1,279 deaths within this period.
And the Lagos State government is once again cautioned against the collection of tenancy agreement fee beyond the stipulated 10% and has asked residents to report such abnormality to the authorities. At the 2025 ministerial press briefing held in Alausa, Ikeja, the special advisor to the governor of Lagos State on housing, Barakat Odunuga Bakari, warned against violation of the state's tenancy law, which caps tenancy agreement fee at 10%. She reiterated the restated Lagos State government stance against the imposition of excessive tenancy agreement fees, reminding all stakeholders within the state that the stipulated maximum remains 10% of the annual rent.
The tenancy laws that we're trying to review, which we did a few weeks ago at the State House of Assembly, now, which I'm sure that we're partners in progress, and because of the fact that we had a protest about 2 weeks ago about the same regard, agents are not supposed to charge more than 10% in total. They are not supposed to charge more than 10%. The law states 10% specifically, between 0 to 10%. It depends on the amount of the rent. And also there's legal fees as well, which should not be more than 10%. So the agent has their duties and the lawyers have their own duties as well, which are well spelled out. As lawyers, we know our limitations. And myself and the Honorable Commissioner and the PS, we've had meetings with the NBA, with Redan, with Naive, with Erican, and also with everybody in the build sector that are organizations regulating the authority and also the profession and registering anybody that practices real estate. And we made them, we understood that lawyers have a duty and also agents have a duty as well too. The present tenancy laws, I would love to disagree, but it doesn't state specifically how much service charges and the rest of them can be. So it's ambiguous. So people interpret it the way they want to, but it states specifically that the amount an agent can charge is not more than 10%. So if you find any agent that is charging more than 10%, please do communicate with us at the Lagos State Real Estate Regulatory Authority, Block 21, first floor in Alausa.
It's time for a short break, but still to come on news now. Putin's no-show in Turkey throws Ukraine's peace talks into disarray. Stay with us for more details. Welcome back. Now let's take you through some of our major stories. The House of Representatives is resolved to investigate the technical error that compromised the result of the 2025 Unified Tertiary Matriculation Examination. The Green Chambers passed a resolution during plenary on Thursday following the adoption of a motion of urgent public importance sponsored by Adewale Adebayo, a lawmaker from Osun State. We also told you that Nigeria's headline inflation rate is likely to 23.71% in April 2025, down from 24.23% recorded in March, according to the latest data by MBS on Thursday. Now, this marks a 0.52 percentage point decline and reflects a modest reprieve in the country's inflation trajectory. Now, in case you missed any of the news bulletin or for more updates, you can catch us on Limes World TV and AVO TV or log on to our website on www.tv360nigeria.com. You can also follow us on our social media platforms on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at TV360 Nigeria, or download our mobile app on Google Play Store, Huawei App Gallery, and Apple Store. On Facebook, we're at TV360 Online.
In the last 3 years, we have built a multi-purpose center, which is the envy of all in our constituency. And I can tell you that the people who are living there are already enjoying it.
Guy, do you think what this man just said is true? See, I seriously doubt. I'm sure it's one of those their silly lies.
Wait, do you know there's a way to find out if these things he's saying is true or not? This is the Construct app. It gives people like us a sure way to track implementation of constituency projects. It gives valid and verified information on location of projects, amounts allocated, amount funded, the level of job done, and even the profiles of concerned legislators. You and I can post directly on this app.
Are you serious?
This is the Go-To app if you want to know how our Commonwealth is being expanded by the government.
Wow. Let's even see if what this man said is true. Show me.
The Construct app is developed by Other Paper Nigeria with support from USAID and is available on both Google Play Store and Apple Store.
And it's true.
Of course, I told you.
It's now time for business news, and Okwayemi Owosheni is on standby. What's the latest, Okwayemi?
Tamilore, the House of Representatives has urged the Federal Ministry of Finance and the Nigerian Customs Service to provide a detailed explanation of the methodology and criteria used in determining the 2% import surcharge remittance. They further called for the publication of a transparent framework for calculating and implementing the surcharge in line with the provisions of the Raw Materials Research and Development Council Act of 2022. Additionally, the House directed the Federal Ministry of Finance to ensure the accurate calculation and immediate remittance of all outstanding arrears of the 2% import surcharge to the RMRDC.
Concerned that there are persistent irregularities and a lack of clarity in the calculation of the remittance of the 2% import surcharge to RMRDC. Further concerned that presently, the Raw Materials Research and Development Council is being paid a negligible amount of about 0.05%, of which sources cannot be defined, and lack of transparency and accountability in the remittance process contravenes the intent and provision of Section 121B of the RMRDC Act 2022. Worried that these irregularities or discrepancies, the lack of clarity created in the disbursement of the fund, arbitrarily void the provision or the law and have greatly hampered the development of the nation and continued to serve as a clog in the wheel of progress. The House resolved to urge the Federal Ministry of Finance and the Nigerian Customs Service to provide a detailed explanation of the methodology and criteria used in determining the 2% import surcharge remittance and publish a transparent framework for calculating and implementing the 2% surcharge in compliance with the RMRDC's Act 2022. To call on the Federal Ministry of Finance to ensure accurate calculation and immediate remittance of all areas of the 2 persons so charged to the RMRDC.
We'll take a short break now and be back with updates from the stock market. Welcome back. Now, the Nigerian stock market on Thursday furthered its positive movement this week, pushing the all-share index and equities market capitalization higher by 0.37% and 109,467 naira 0.64 points respectively. Now, we see stocks like Better Glass Company and MPF Microfinance Bank helping to move the market higher. Now, Nestle Nigeria led the gainers with a 10% share price appreciation, moving from 1,210 naira to 1,331 naira per share. So it's followed closely by Honeywell Flour Mill. Now, in 14,743 deals, investors exchanged 722 million shares worth 13 billion naira. Now, on the global front, the trading is mixed as the UK FTSE and US Dow Jones maintained a bullish trade, as you can see from the screen behind me. It's a different case, however, for Japan's Nikkei as oil prices slid and broader Asian stocks fell after enthusiasm from easing trade tensions began to fade, and investors waited for further cues in the foreign exchange market. Now we see that the naira continued to slide on the parallel market, trading at 1,620 naira to the US dollar, 2,060 naira to the British pound, and 1,730 naira to the euro, unchanged from the previous day's rate. And that's it on both business and stock market updates. Back to you, Tamilore, for the rest of the news.
Thank you for that update, Okwayemi. Well, on the foreign scene, Russian President Vladimir Putin has sent a lower-level delegation to attend peace talks with Ukraine and Turkey, ignoring Kyiv's direct challenge for a face-to-face meeting between Putin and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Putin's decision not to attend is cast uncertainty over the much-anticipated negotiation, which would mark the first formal peace talk since the early stages of the war. While Russia announced the discussion would take place in Istanbul later, Turkish officials stated that no meeting has been officially scheduled as of yet. Meanwhile, U.S. President Donald Trump, currently on a tour of the Gulf, told newsmen that no progress could be expected in the peace process without a direct meeting between himself and Putin. And finally, on sport, Nottingham Forest striker Taiwo Awoniyi has regained consciousness after being placed in an induced coma following surgery for serious abdominal injury. The Nigerian international sustained a ruptured intestine during a recent match and underwent the first phase of surgery on Monday. On Tuesday, doctors placed him in a medically induced coma to closely monitor his condition. The second stage of the procedure, which involved closing the abdominal wound, was successfully completed on Wednesday. And that wraps up our bulletin on News Now. Many thanks for watching. I'm Tamilore Akinkulie. See you again next time.